is Maximus Decimus Meridius.
I am your father.
You like Huey Lewis on the news?
Yes. And you're not sure about this, are you?
You're gonna die, clown!
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss? Sam, the most you ever lost on a coin toss. Call it.
Whose motorcycle is this?
It's a chopper, baby.
Whose chopper is this?
Zed's.
Who's Zed?
Zed's dead, baby.
Bring out today!
This is a tasty burger.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Welcome to the fucking show.
Velkommen til Se What Sticks, en podcast om alt og ingenting. Jeg heter Russell.
And I'm Ben.
So I decided to do the intro in Norwegian this week. Just because on a previous episode, maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, I said that I was learning Norwegian, and the goal was to become fluent. So, that intro was in Norsk, which is the Norwegian word for Norwegian. If that makes sense. But yeah.
I think most people could probably deduce that Norsk is somehow like Scandinavian or Nordish. Nordish? Is that the right word?
Norwegian?
Norwegian, okay.
Norwegian.
Nordish, I probably just made that up completely.
I think that's a Skyrim thing, dude.
It is. That's where.
Yeah, I think that's a Skyrim thing. Yeah, but
Bethesda has planted its little fucking seeds in my brain still.
Yeah, which Skyrim is all like Norse mythology and like Norway, Finland, Iceland, like that whole like Viking mythology is really big in the Skyrim game. If you guys know what we're talking about. So Ben, how has your week been?
Not too bad. Had the Monday off for Memorial Day.
Mm-hmm.
Then just had like a normal day of class today. So far so good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Your audio levels are coming through very crispy.
Crisp and clear.
Oh yeah, Ben with his new setup. That's good. Honestly, since we recorded last, nothing much has changed. I will eventually be going to the dark side or the light side, whatever side you do stand on in a month or so, computer operating system wise, for how I record the show, which means I will be switching to a PC for some of it. But yeah, that doesn't mean I'm totally abandoning Mac. I still have an iMac computer, like the big 5K one. It's just my laptop and mobile setup will be going to a PC for some editing reasons. That's, I think, the only real piece of news I have, but that won't be happening for a little while. So, yeah. But Ben, I think you should make your announcement for the show before I make any of my announcements, because your announcement prompted my action.
Oh no, I'm a catalyst. Okay, so after however many episodes that I've been on for this show, I've decided to take my talents and expand them. I had you all thinking I was going to leave. No, I'm still going to be with the show, but I am going to be starting my own podcast, currently, tentatively titled, I think I'm going to stick with this title though, Our World of Idiots. So stay tuned for more information on that, what we're going to be about. I'm going to be releasing like kind of an episode 0 intro, 5-minute little thing about what it's going to be all about here in the very, very near future. I'm just excited. I wanted to branch out, do my own kind of thing, not out of any sort of unhappiness with the current state of the show. I think we're doing great. I love what we do. But I wanted to expand my horizons.
Yeah, and Ben came to me with this proposition several weeks ago-ish. Like, he just planted the first seeds, and honestly, I thought it was a great idea. I genuinely am stoked to hear what's up and what is going to happen with this show and with what we know as See What Sticks. See What Sticks will no longer be the name of this podcast. This podcast is going to be called Nothing and Everything. And See What Sticks will turn into like the network where you can find Ben's show, you can find Nothing and Everything, which will be what this show is, where Ben and I host this. And then there will be potentially a few more shows that'll be added in. One potentially by our friend and guest host Ariana, and then 2 more that I'm not going to talk anymore about because I don't want to talk myself into a corner. But there might be 2 more shows, but for the time being, there will be 3 shows on the See What Sticks network, and will be sent out to you, lovely listening audience, the same way you are. So all of that will stay the same. You will just be seeing different shows populate what you know as See What Sticks.
Yes, just an expansion and a rebranding.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's instead of one flavor, you're going to get Neapolitan here. You're going to get 3 different shows under the same umbrella, but by different creators going different directions and giving us some more freedom to talk about what we might want to talk about in more detail instead of potentially sidetracking a show, making your own show and giving yourself what you want to do. Because I think the beauty of having a podcast and hosting a podcast, and for Ben and myself, like owning one, is doing what you want, like being your own boss. And I think that's really important, and I'm super down to do that, because this podcast and this show and what this is all about is exploring that and having fun. And we're not the news. We've never been the news. We're just 2 dudes, and then when Ariana comes on, 2 dudes and a girl. She probably is more of an expert on stuff than I am. I don't know about Ben, but it's essentially 2 dudes that are idiots, and then a girl who are just talking. And I want to keep it like that. And if Ben wants to become the master of that, Ben on his show can do that. But this show, which will be called Nothing and Everything as of next week, is the show that you know and love. But the theme song will also be changing because of that. So this is the last week of that theme song. Things will be a little bit different. And yeah, so it's going to be fun. And on our inaugural episode, we're going to have another guest for the first episode of Nothing and Everything. And same basic format, but just some more announcements and Ben's show. So I think those are the big things that we're going to talk about, and what some of our goals are for this, as well as some movie news this week. So Ben, do you have anything else before we get into it?
You pretty much covered it all right there, yeah. As far as my show goes, all the information anybody will want to know or need to know, that'll be pretty much handled on my little episode 0. I would say coming out early next week. And other than that, we hope that everybody enjoys our kind of evolution through what we're doing, and we hope that you guys stick with us. I'm sure you all will. We have a loyal fan base. Other than that, yeah, let's just keep pushing forward and do what we do best.
Yeah, I'm very excited, actually. I think this has been something that, has been a long time coming. So I have a question for you, because this is going to be a little different, because we've done Game of Thrones, we've done movie stuff a lot for the past couple weeks. So when you started doing the show with me full time, what was your, let's say, not long term, but like next step goal for this aspect of your creative process or your creative life?
Really, when I hopped on board, I don't know if I had much of a long-term goal. Mm-hmm. I took this podcast seriously. I don't want it to sound like I was just kind of like, it's a thing, it's a whatever. Mm-hmm. But I didn't really know where it was going to go. I didn't know if any sort of new creative juices were going to start flowing through me. But it did, and it prompted me to start my own thing and get my own voice out there, hopefully in a unique enough way to where I'm going to start attracting some more people. But yeah, I like the direction that this show has taken my kind of creative outlet, and hopefully it continues to grow.
Yeah, I completely agree with that sentiment, and I definitely can see the creative thing and the side of Ben, at least from me knowing Ben apart from just the podcast, of Ben being like, hey, I want to try this idea, or I think we should go in this direction, or pitching more show ideas, or like, hey, let's do this, or like taking the reins. And I think that's solid. And I mean, if you want to, we can touch a little bit on the film that we're writing. I don't want to give away any like real plot points, but some of that. And I think with what See What Sticks is as a company and as a media outlet or whatever, when I started this, the podcast was the foundation of something. And so the way I want to put this is, I started the podcast because it would be fun and it's cool to just talk or whatever, right? But the main reason I kept doing it, and I continue to do it, and I will continue to do this, not only because I love doing this, I think it's a really fun way to connect, I think it's a fun way to put something out there, but it's building a library of work. And that's how I see this, as it does not matter if no one listens. It does not matter if 1 million people listen. It is a library of work that I have, that Ben has, that anyone else who comes on the show can put towards their own name creatively and personally, that will only really benefit you, as long as you don't say something profoundly stupid, which I know I have on certain episodes, but that's fine. It's whatever. And that's what this is about, and that's what this has been doing, is building this library and building this brand up to do bigger things. Not that this podcast isn't big, but to take this in different avenues that Ben and I have talked about off air, and some like businessy decisions that we want to do together, and some things Ben wants to do, and some things I want to do that I know that we can lean on each other with, not just through See What Sticks, but because of a lot of the skills that we've both learned because of the show and because of what it takes to do this. Because there is a lot of back end to doing any show like this. It's not as easy as just clicking play. There's a lot of other stuff that goes into it. There's a lot of time. There's a lot of me and Ben calling each other and being like, do you have an idea? Or like, let's just do this one. Let's go for it. And a lot of, hey man, stuff happened. I can't tonight. Let's do tomorrow. Because I think a big thing, I know Ben definitely can agree with this one, life sometimes gets in the way of life.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially as you get older and, shit just keeps getting, or life just keeps taking big dumps on you, whether it be like good, solid, easy to clean up dumps or just diarrhea spray all over you. Mm-hmm. I mean, you gotta deal with it as it hits you. So, and sometimes, yeah, exactly, that does get in the way of our projected recording times. That's one thing that I'm incredibly thankful for this podcast and Russell being flexible and being understanding with that. Any number of other people that take a podcast seriously might have, just said, enough with my bullshit. You either dedicate your time to the podcast or dedicate your time to our family. And naturally, like I would have said, like, okay, deuce. I'm not choosing my family, or not choosing a podcast over a family.
Of course.
But Russell has been incredible with understanding that, and that's a main reason I've stuck around.
Yeah, I think. Well, thank you. And I think that's like a main reason. Someone asked me recently, who will stay nameless. Maybe I've talked about this on the show. Maybe I haven't. I don't think I have. I think we talked about this off air. But someone asked me, why did I pick Ben? First, that's a rude-ass question. What the fuck would you ask me that? But second, it's because when I was going through to do like a full-time host, not just a co-host, but a full-time like Han Solo to my Chewbacca type thing, I was looking for someone who would be flexible, because like I have my own series of things that gets in the way of this show occasionally. Like today, I don't feel great. That happens. Like things get in the way. I feel like complete trash today, but the show must go on in one way or another. And I think Ben was cool about that from the start. And also Ben has a lot of interests that are similar to mine, but also has a definite, the Venn diagram does overlap, but there is a bunch on the outside, which is really cool, which is why I'm so stoked about him doing his own show in that direction about stuff that I'm like, hell yes. I think it's creating a show that I'd want to hear and creating a show that you'd want to hear. And I think that's why you have a co-host. And like some people would pick essentially themselves as their second co-host. Like you'd find a second version of you as a co-host. But that I don't think is fun. I think a little bit of difference is good. But now like having completely opposite views, like if you'd never seen any movies and you hate movies, I'd be like, maybe not the right person for this show. Maybe if I ever did another kind of show in the future, yeah, I would do that. But yeah, there's a logical, there's a calculated reason. Also, because Ben's super easy to work with, and puts up with my constant bullshit and constant like firing of text messages. I think I send Ben probably 1 million text messages and 1 million Instagram posts a day, and Ben responds to like 8% of them, and I'm like, cool, he looked. And maybe watches.
I will always look. I may not always respond. That's so.
Yeah,
I've talked to Russell about this before, and I made sure it's not like something he's offended by.
No,
and this is like my. This is my how I do things with most people that send me anything. You know, whether it be Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah.
My ex-wife posts so many shit while tagging me in it, and I just kind of look at it. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't bother liking it most of the time, or it's just like, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah,
I acknowledge it with my own eyes.
Exactly, and it's the only way Ben knows I'm still alive when we're not doing the show and we're not talking to each other. Because if there's a day it goes dark, it's like, oh man, he's finally dead. It happened.
He's been eaten by a bear.
Yeah, it's like he's dead. I haven't gotten 1,000 different Instagram memes and like 36 different like, Ben, you should listen to this. Ben, you should watch this. If he doesn't get that, he knows. Call 911. Hey, my co-host is dead somewhere. I don't know what to do. But yeah, and I think some of the creative venues that I think both of us are doing or want to do are really interesting. And I think I'll definitely let you talk about this, Ben, but doing this show has really made me look at other people who make stuff and see some of the mistakes that they're making and some mistakes I personally made on my end of the show, and maybe some that you've made it that you've realized, and then looked at other things like, okay, how do I implement that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, before I even started on here, I was already listening to dozens, or trying to make time to listen to dozens of podcasts already. So comparing our work with other professional libraries of work that they've already put out, and comparing them, just like how do we make ourselves better? How do we get to the level of quality content that these national names are putting out? Mm-hmm. And that's what I want to get to. I want to be able to be recognized as like people that put out quality content. And, you know, even if, you know, we don't get fortunate enough to where, you know, we're headlining podcast festivals or something, you know, that's a pie in the sky dream. It's definitely attainable if we keep chugging at it. But even if not, like the most thing that matters to me is that, you know, we feel as if we're putting out stuff that's worth putting out, and that we're, you know, truthful to ourselves, truthful to our listening base, and that we're having a good time doing it.
Yeah, I really agree. I think that's important, the staying truthful and staying like not selling out. I think that
I didn't say that.
No, exactly.
If Disney's wanting to plop a pile of cash on my lap,
yo man,
you best believe I will be making a Mickey Mouse voice for that.
Oh yeah, it's like, oh, I take back everything I've said about Disney. If you just write a 1 and just keep writing zeros, I will become cooler and cooler with whatever you think. If anyone's listening, hit us up. Emails in the description. But yeah, I think that's something that's really interesting. And with doing that and staying true to what this is, I think a lot of times I've seen it with friends and other people I know who've made things who start out, this isn't like a slam, but they start out going in one direction and doing it for a certain reason, which I think is a good reason, maybe a noble reason, but then they get this first snap of something. That was a bad snap because my hands are sweaty, but that's also a bad snap because my hands are sweaty. I'll edit one in. I'm not going to edit that in. I think there's people who hit something and then they totally lose sight of what they did, and they lose sight of why it was fun in the beginning. And they lose sight of like the enjoyable aspect, because you can turn anything into a super lucrative thing, but in doing that, are you going to lose the part of it that you enjoy doing? Like why, like when people ask like, oh, why do you put so much time in the podcast? I enjoy it. and if I was making $1 million an episode, it wouldn't be fun anymore. It would turn into a job. And that's not what I want this to be at the moment. I don't want this to be a job with a capital fuck. And that's really what a lot of this is. It's more of like, I want to put out something. I want to be able to put my name on something, but I don't care about that other stuff so much. And Ben, if you want to, we can talk about the process of writing the film we're writing without giving away the name or what it's about, but like talk about the process of doing this and not living in the same state.
Yeah, at times that can be pretty difficult, especially trying to keep up with writing in a consistent manner. I mean, we're still working on it. It's been a little bit since we've kind of really talked meaningfully about it. But really, it's kind of just we share, Russell, I, and Ariana, we share our ideas like online through whether, FaceTime, texting, whatever, emails. But yeah, we pretty much discuss what our ideas are, riff off one another, say, how can we improve this? Does this work? Is it going to work for the story that we want to tell? And then really we kind of just we have a kind of an outline of a script and a few portions of the script in a Google Doc that we all have access to. We'll put our own inputs on it. We will look at each other's inputs, say what we think works, where we think something might be able to be improved. And I'm really thankful for our kind of chemistry that we've had so far, and that none of us have become this sort of writing diva, like, no, absolutely not. Mm-hmm. I want this idea to stay in, or I don't think your critique or your criticism is worth taking into account. We've all been very open to, just listening to each other's ideas. And I think that's how we're going to be able to put out a damn good movie. Yeah. That we all care deeply about and that we're all proud of.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I definitely echo that sentiment as well, especially because this isn't anything to give away about the film or what the film is about, but a fair amount of the movie is about things that I've experienced. That doesn't mean the movie's about me. It's not. Parts of it are things that I've experienced in my life that all three of us are writing into a character and writing into a situation that I think is unique, to say the least. And I'm so grateful that Ben and Ariana, one, believe in the idea when I pitched it to them, where I was like, hey, I think we should work on a story that is about this and this. And neither of them were like, that's stupid. They were both like, whoa, how the hell are we going to achieve this? And I'm like, I don't know. And all of us kind of put our heads together in a really good way. And we're like, okay, I think this is the only way that we can get this to be like this. And then we have changed a lot of stuff from the first idea. I'm sure if we went back and looked at the first text message or the first concept of what this was versus what it is right now and what it will become are wildly different with the same core concept. But I think the working on the podcast and having this like a little bit shoot from the hip mentality and a little bit of let's prep and let's take the content seriously, but not take ourselves too seriously aspect of what we've tried to create here, I think that does help with writing any film or writing or doing something just collaborative in general, because you don't want I think everyone has personalities, but you don't want the personalities to get in the way of the vision. Because I think if left up to our own devices, any one of us could definitely go, I know for me personally, I could go egomaniac, but I think we all have to, like, it's checks and balances. We all have to be like, Ben, you're incredible at this. Ariana, you're incredible at this. Russell, you're incredible at this. And thankfully, they're all different things that we can be like, I love this idea. Maybe let's try this. And all of us are doing the same thing. And same thing works for the podcast where, especially when Ben and I are on, Ben most of the time is like, Russell, reel this shit in. Like, there's a lot of Ben doing that. Also, I think because Ben is older than me. For those of you who don't know, Ben is a little older than me, and that does help.
Age doesn't always equate to wisdom, though.
Yes.
We gotta make that clear.
No, it does not always equate to wisdom, but there are some times where Ben has been like, hey, dude, let's do this. And I'm like, man, that's a good ass idea. I didn't even think of that. And I genuinely do like that. And I think I know this episode's way different than anything we've ever done. But I did want to do this. And Ben and I texted each other today. It's like, hey, we don't have an idea for today. Here's what I think we should do.
As soon as Game of Thrones went off the air, we became lost little dogs. Like, what are we doing here?
I know, until Watchmen comes on and the Golden Compass and like The Witcher and stuff. I don't know. Actually, I have been watching a show that I do want to have. I have some serious questions about in like 4 minutes, but this episode for me, maybe not for Ben, but this episode, which is episode 79 or 80 of See What Sticks, is a goodbye to what See What Sticks is and ending this chapter. And that doesn't mean this is going to stop. But we're going to keep this going till the sun fucking burns out. This shit's not stopping. Like, I'll record this from the grave. I'll be here to annoy you every week. But this is a goodbye to what See What Sticks is. Because that is the See What Sticks podcast is now turning into the See What Sticks brand. And I'm personally happy. What about you?
Yeah, I'm excited to see where things go. Like we've said before, with my podcast coming under the umbrella with Ariana's what she wants to do, you know, we're including more individual voices into our what our overall family wants to be. And to me, there's very few ways that you can go wrong when you add more perspectives and more more backgrounds, more stories to tell. You know, we're going to be diversifying as a family. We're going to be growing. Hopefully we're going to continue to grow. And as that growth keeps going, hopefully we add more and more and more voices that should be heard, that have good things to say, and from different perspectives that, you know, are different from just us two, cis white male dudes. You know, there's an infinite number of podcasts featuring hosts like us. So I'm personally excited for us to, give voice and help give voice to more people.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I know before in the past there was an episode I did. Maybe I haven't done one on my knee thing, but I can talk about that really briefly. In the past, if you want to look it up, which also is going to be a thing, how we're going to process those old episodes. I may archive them. They may stay online. I don't know what I'm going to do with those because that's part of this switchover. I don't know. That's something I have to decide. If those all disappear or some of them disappear, I'm sorry. Some of them may, some of them may not. There's reasons for that. Ben knows that some may go away, some may stay. I had an episode on having epilepsy. And that was a pretty deep episode where it was just me kind of saying, this is a lot of what people do think about this thing. This is what it's actually like in my experience. Here's like an open book. It's a little bit of like a one-sided AMA, but it's like answering all the questions that people usually ask me. I have talked about the show like a few other deep topics, like on being adopted. And then I had like a tumor. I don't know if I've ever really talked about that one, but I had it last year. And I know I've talked about being on crutches on the episode and something with my leg. That's what it has to do with. But I know we have touched on some other stuff, and we've touched on some other deep topics, ranging from that to relationship stuff on this relationship stuff on this show. And I think that is the beauty of what this is, because it allows us to be free. And one of the big criticisms I have gotten from people is, you guys don't script stuff. Yeah, we don't. Because if you want scripted stuff, there is this really cool stuff. It is called television, and it's called radio. If you want scripted, I'm almost positive most everyone has a television or a radio, probably in your car, or you have a phone. Do that. This isn't that.
Is the criticism that we don't do enough scripted bits?
I don't know. I could do scripted bits.
Staying on a sort of outline and where we're not just kind of riffing?
I think yes. I think the answer to that question is yes. And I'm fine with all criticism. I am. But that's not what this is. That's not See What Sticks. If I wanted to do scripted, I'd definitely do less episodes, and I'd definitely be less happy to do this. And I don't think Ben and I, or maybe Ben would be good at it. Ben probably seems better at that than me. If I was reading a script, I'd be like, fuck this, 4 lines in.
Well, I'm not going to, for my show, I'm not going to be reading directly off a script or anything like that. I may quote certain news articles or things around the web, just to give journalists, authors, their due. I'm not just going to say like, I found this, and I'm not going to credit whoever wrote it. But as far as reading directly, like reading lines that I wrote down, like that to me, that doesn't sound natural.
No.
I want to be talking to the audience as if we're having a conversation. We're sitting down over, a beer and a steak or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like, a news anchor reading to you.
100%. And yeah, I definitely agree with that. And that's when Ben pitched me the idea, I'm like, yes. Like, he didn't even explain what the show was in more than like one text message, and he gave me the name, and I literally was like, yes. Like, just blindly kind of like, yeah, I trust this idea. And I think it's good. And working on this script as well, I think that's the biggest thing. Someone asked me recently, who's a really close friend, what do you have to do to make a podcast? Trust. I think that's a big thing. Find someone you can trust, that you can like rely on, and who they can trust you. Trust, dedication, and patience. And a little bit of talent. There's 1% talent, and I have that 1% talent. Some people have 100% talent. That's why you know their name. But I think,
and no one's ever going to hear your voice or what you have to say unless you hit the record button, say what you want to say, and put it out there. That's the most important part, and that might be the hardest part for a lot of people, is thinking that who wants to hear what I have to say. Someone out there does.
Yes.
You just have to try it. You just have to keep chugging and chugging. And have faith that something will catch someone. It'll catch someone's ear, and if it doesn't, you can't let that. Or if it takes more time than what you feel like it's going to take for you to get a listening base, don't let that get you down.
Yeah,
and just keep going.
I completely agree, and I think the biggest thing is you have to realize, or not you, but like I think, you listening, hello, yes, you. I think the biggest thing is if you want to do something, no matter what it is, just do it. You're not alone. Everyone wants to do something, and the only difference is between people who make $1 billion doing that and people who don't do it is the just grinding every day, and it sucks 98% of the time. And there's a lot of times, I know for me, I'm sure the same way. It's like before the show, it's like, it's literally that. And then you're like, let's do it. And there is a super fun part about it. But I think another thing that I try to achieve on the show that I bring to it that I don't talk about is the fact that when you're listening to this, whoever you are listening, you're not alone. Like, I think everyone has problems. Everyone has a thing. Everyone has like good things and bad things going on. If you're listening to this, we're trying to make this like as lighthearted and fun as possible. And if you do feel like that, seriously, message us. Like, I legit do read all the messages, for better or worse. I will reply in some amount of time. And if you want to get like really message us, email. Like, I have the email on my iPhone right now. I think Ben does, maybe. I have no idea. But
I think I still have it somewhere.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Professionalism at its best. But I think that's something I try to bring to it, where, like Ben said, it's like having a beer over a steak kind of thing. Or like the way I approach this is like just listening to two guys like on the train. Just literally listening to two people or listening to two guys at a bar, and like if you want to chime in, you can. And never having a conversation where we're trying to talk over you or trying to be better. We're just two guys saying a thing. and especially with the Game of Thrones stuff, we're talking about The Matrix. The Matrix episode is very funny. I went back and listened to part of it because someone mentioned something. It is so funny how Ben and I, during half of that, are just like, we both mentally tune out and just start talking. Because we're like, I can't review this anymore. And even the Bourne one, it just turns into us shitting on a thing. And I think that is what is important when you're doing this. Just find someone you want to record with, record and do it. Just go for it. One person at least will listen. Seriously, one person at least will listen. And if you're a real piece of shit like I am, put it on in the car for your friends so they have to listen.
That's cold.
Yeah, just put it on and then duct tape everyone's hands to the seat so they can't change it. You can put your own headphones in, dude. Just put your own headphones in. You can listen to whatever thing. Listen to some Mute Math. Listen to some Eminem. Everyone else is forced to listen to your podcast and hear how funny you're not. But yeah, I think those are things that are all that I've wanted to say in saying goodbye to this chapter of See What Sticks. And I know Ben came on a little later, but do you have some, before I ask you about this TV show, do you have some things, like, what are, like, 2 things, like, you've learned, maybe, or that you're going to take forward into your podcast, and then, like, a few, like, top 5 moments, or top 5 least favorite moments, because I have some.
What have I learned? Shit, I don't know. I've learned that even something that you like and love as much as, like, doing this you kind of touched on it a little bit, at points right before you start recording, or, you know, knowing that it's going to come up later in the evening, you just kind of like, fuck, like, all right. But, you know, that's natural with anything you like and love. At some point you will get bogged down a little bit. You just got to keep pressing through it and keep thinking about, you know, the good stuff that's on the other side of it, the good things that, you know, are going to come of it, the joy that it actually brings you when you do it. Yeah, I guess that's one thing I've learned, is just that to persevere through those feelings of just like, do I want to do this anymore? Because every single time that I've pushed through, and at the end of our recording session, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I did that. This is exactly why I do it now.
Yeah.
As far as top 5 moments, I have no fucking clue. I don't know if I could list any. I really liked our little experiment of me watching the Harry Potter films and you watching the Friday the 13th series. I thought that was cool. I think we both ended up liking those series.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was. I'd be happy to do that again with a different series at some point in the near future.
Yeah. Definitely, I agree. I think that was super fun because it was both things that neither of us would have watched probably organically unless someone else made us watch those. Speaking of which,
still got my Blu-rays.
Yeah, they're literally sitting on a table of like a bunch of books and stuff that I'm like in the middle of trying to read, and like a podcasting, like not podcasting for dummies, like a recording one, just like how to blah 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 blah, whatever. But yeah, I think that was a really good one, and I think doing the Matrix episode, I talked about on here, I think the Matrix episode was one of the funniest for me, partially because I watched all 3 of them and then instantly started the podcast, so I was probably out of 9.5 hours of movie, and I was like, I fucking hate this. And I remember I was recording it, it was like a weird night, a night we don't usually record, and I don't know why. I think it was over like Christmas break or something, because I was at home recording it. I don't know exactly why. Maybe it was Christmas break. No, you know what? I graduated from college. That's why I was home, because I live at home now. What's up? Spoiler alert. But I was like, I think it was cold because I was recording in a room I don't usually record in. I think that's part of it. I was like, what the hell am I recording here? It's not important. But I just remember that entire episode. I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? I love that. And I really do love us very, very professionally breaking down Game of Thrones. I think I've had 3 people now tell me like, hey man, I listened to your Game of Thrones like recap stuff and I started watching it. And my comment was, oh my God, you should probably listen to a professional on this, not us two. We're not good at this.
If you are as impressionable by just listening to us dumbasses talk about Game of Thrones, like, holy shit, I'd hate for someone else to be like, hey, come join the Manson family.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh no, like, one of the people who I know listens is my trainer, Mike, is like, yeah, I was listening to your podcast about Game of Thrones. It's super interesting. I'm like, it was incoherent. We were just saying words for an hour.
Blah, 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 Lannister. Blah.
It pretty much is kind of what it was. But yeah, I'm really, really stoked about that. And I know a lot of good stuff will come out of it, especially because Ben is doing what he's doing with the show, which will free up a lot of space for this show because he's going to take a portion of what this is and bring it to his and expand upon it in a really cool way. And yeah, I think it'll be awesome. I told a few people about this, like potential expansion, and everyone's like, whoa, you're expanding? And it's like, yeah, you thought this was the final stage? No. This is just the beginning. And yeah, I'm stoked. And I think the biggest thing I learned is just like, be patient. Be patient with yourself, be patient with the show and everything else, and continue to have fun with it, because if you look at the numbers and you look at everything else, it's going to be useless. It will be 100% useless, and you will start to hate it. Do it for fun. Do it for the reason you went into it, and do it because you enjoy making something and potentially making someone else laugh or making someone else interested in something that you're interested in, and building to like that fan base or that nerdiness or whatever the episode is. I think that's the biggest thing I learned, is to do that and just be happy when anyone listens, or someone's like, hey, I heard you have a podcast. You're just like, yeah. And the other thing I think I learned is just to be humble on the show, because it's not my show, it's our show. And I think that's the biggest thing. That's like the biggest takeaway is See What Sticks. I am not See What Sticks. I am the co-host of See What Sticks along with Ben. And yeah, Ben, on that note, I watched I Think You Should Leave. What the fuck is that show?
That's probably the best summary of that. Is like, what the fuck is this? But yeah, that's a gem of a show.
Okay, you told me to watch it, and you gave me no insight as to what it was. You're just like, just watch it.
That's the best way to experience this.
Okay, I'm on episode like 5 or 4. The thing with the shirt, like the pulling shirt out thing, just made me laugh so hard.
The shirt, yeah, the shirts.
The Tug It or whatever.
Yeah, the kind of baby beauty pageant in episode 1.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, there's so many good skits in this show, and the great thing is like all of this is just packed into a nice little tight 15 to like 18 minute show, and there's only like 6 episodes in the first season. You could seriously, you can do it exactly like I did, is watch the entire first series in one night. Yeah,
you can. I'm not done. I think I have 2 more left, so I think I'm on 4 of 6.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm on 4 of 6. There's one that's a magician. It's like Magicians Ruin, or some Magicians Fucking Suck. That one made me laugh so hard. And how did you find that show first?
The creator of it, Tim Robinson, he was a guest on Comedy Bang Bang, the podcast, probably about a month ago.
Uh-huh.
And I had never heard the guy's name before.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, if he's on here and he's got a Netflix show, might as well check it out. And I fell in love, like, from pretty much the first 5 minutes of that first episode.
Is he the main guy who's in, like, most of them?
Yes.
Okay.
The really, really awkward one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the very first skit of the very first episode, where the guy that's pulling the door as it's supposed to be pushed.
Yeah. That one, the interview, that's so funny. That one, and I think, I'm trying to think of all of them, because there's a lot. There's like 4 or 5 in each one. The one where the couple's on the airplane with the guy who seeks revenge, that one, like, when you realize what the shtick is, or like the gag, it's so, all of those have a thing, and then you start like watching each of them, you're like, wait, what is the thing going to be? Like, what is the wild thing they just take way out to left field? There's one, it's the cover of it. It has like an Elmo thing. Is that a really good one? Because that's like on all their marketing material. It's like this red puppet.
I would have to watch it again, honestly. I don't remember Red Puppet and being in a skit. Hell, that gives me an excuse to rewatch probably like the rest of it again.
Yeah.
After we record.
That one, and then I'm trying to think. Let me go back and look at it because there's some let me go to Netflix right now and just jog my memory.
While he's doing that, I will go ahead and plug a little bit more of a much more like serious show on HBO, a new miniseries called Chernobyl. And this show is fucking bonkers and so good. It's almost over. They've aired 4 episodes. I want to say there's only 5, but so far this show is bleak as hell. There's some parts that are downright terrifying, and there's a lot of parallels between kind of what happened back in 1986 when the Chernobyl nuclear power plant accident happened, and some current kind of geopolitical things concerning climate change and politicians trying to butt their way into what should just be scientists know what the fuck they're talking about. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would highly recommend people check out Chernobyl on HBO or HBO Now /Go, whatever form of HBO they have.
Yeah, it's really... I've seen the first 2 episodes. I was blown away. Instantly. For those of you who don't know, I'm from Russia. So there's like that cool side of it from there. Like I am from Russia. I was born there. What's up? Off the boat. Yeah, and I think it's really interesting just to see that and have my parents talk to me about it because they're not from Russia, and talk about what Russia was like back then from being alive for all of this. And it's really interesting to hear their commentary on this while I'm watching it and being like, yeah, this is like something that happened not too long before you were born. Like, very much right before you were born, these horrible things were happening. I'm like, oh my God. And it's just fascinating. And I think it's very bleak. It is very dark. It is not a comedy. It will bum you the fuck out. But it's incredibly well done. But on a different note, it was the toupee thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The receipt one and the toupee one are both... The toupee one, I think, might be one of the most clever things where it's like, that gorilla stole my hair.
I really like the, what is it? What's the term? Kind of the focus group with the car. Or with the old guy that keeps saying random ass shit. Yeah, and most of these skits take a weird turn that you really don't see, and this is one of the best ones.
Yeah, he's like, I'm the popular one now. Oh, it's so good. That one, and the spinal surgery one. Where he's like, I can lift up my, stepson as well. That one, yeah. I watched that one in the gym today. I was, on, the bike. I was just watching it, and I'm like, oh my God. I just feel like this guy's just sitting in his bedroom. He's like, that would be funny. And then just has the means to make it into a real thing. It's kind of like Tim and Eric. But
yeah, very much so.
It's like Tim and Eric, but more modern and with a way higher budget.
Right, and Tim Heidecker, I think he's even in a skit.
Yeah.
In one of the episodes as well.
Yeah. That, and did you watch the Subway thing I sent you?
Shit, I still haven't done that. I will go back and do that after we finish recording.
That's actually by a group called Auntie Donna. They have a podcast as well called Auntie Donna. It is so... I stumbled upon them. It just came on my You May Think These Guys Are Funny on YouTube. I found them completely randomly through an algorithm. Holy shit. There's one called, there's this Subway one, which I can't spoil on the air, because if you say what it is, it will spoil the joke. Because it's kind of like a one joke, but they just keep going with it. There's that one, and then there's one about a food delivery app that is so fucking funny, and it's like one of those things where it just goes way out in the left field, and I think those are great, and I love that kind of comedy where it just goes for it. and not all of them land, but when they land big. But yeah, Ben, do you have any other like recommendations or anything for this episode? The last official See What Sticks. See What Sticks?
Don't believe any more recommendations. I may have one next week when we start Everything and Nothing.
Okay, perfect. So this is well, I was gonna say a thing, but I'm Russell. This is See What Sticks. This is the last episode titled See What Sticks by See What Sticks. A show about everything and nothing. Ben, let's sign off.
As always, thank you guys so much for joining us. And we will definitely enjoy having you guys with us next week as we start the brand new chapter of this adventure that we're taking. This has been See What Sticks, a podcast about everything and nothing. I am Ben. We'll catch you guys next week.